Howdy, friends, and welcome to The Story Field. This is a podcast where we talk about business, faith, and life in general.
Okay, so here's the deal. We want you to be encouraged. We want you living in hope. This life we live is complex. It's hard at times. At The Story Field, you will find great stories of normal people just like us who will inspire you. Our goal is that you leave encouraged, inspired, and excited to move forward in life. But before we get started, one thing though, if you're listening and you find yourself really hopeless right now, send us an email at hope@thestoryfield.com so we can pray for you. Thanks for joining us today. Let's get started.
Hey, Storyfield. Today is going to be awesome. So Bruce Pulver is on the show. Bruce, thanks for making time today.
It's great to be here, Josh. Thanks for inviting me. And, through our dear friend, Dave McDonald, we've connected.
Yeah, thank you, Dave.
Looking so much forward to this conversation. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Okay, so you are a first for us. You are the first guest we've had on who's done a TED Talk. Man, that is amazing. We're going to get into that. So thank you for, breaking the dam open of the TED Talk people. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Yeah. So Bruce is a author, professional speaker, a workshop leader, an entrepreneur, a father, a husband, and now a guest. So, we have a lot to talk about, but Bruce, I think I love your story and your kind of story. I've grown to love it over the time. It's just like the big moments, the God moments, so I'm really grateful. I think we're going to have fun. And I wanted to let people know they need to check out your book. And I've already scanned through at least a few chapters of it. It's called Above the Chatter, Our Words Matter. Powerful words that change my life forever. Now, can we get that on all platforms, kind of everywhere, Bruce?
And Amazon, Barnes & Noble, any of the onlines. And if you buy it from my website, I've made the commitment that I sign every copy.
Okay, awesome.
From my website. And that's just the name of the book, Above the Chatter, ourwordsmatter.com.
Okay.
The holiday season coming up. I've found folks who bought them for their employees, family, organizations, and just, like I said, we'll talk about it, but hopefully there's an encouraging word in there for somebody. I wrote enough of them. There should be one or two.
100% there is. And your real passion, and we'll get into that. Like we mentioned earlier too, though, you've given a TED Talk called, and I've watched it. You can get on and Google, look at it. It's called The Secret of Changing Negative Self-Talk by Renewing Your Mindset. And you've taken that too, and you speak professionally around the world, but your real passion is the power of words. So, again, that's kind of all this is about. But you have a quote in your book that I want us to start off with this. You said, day one, the day I was born could have been the worst day of my life.
Yeah.
The day I was born could have been the worst day of my life. That jumped off the page to me. Like, I don't think I've ever heard that statement or even said that way. What do you mean? Let's do that and get into your story and your childhood.
Absolutely. So I have a 2.5-year-old older than myself brother, and my mother had easy, simple, straightforward labor with him. And so when she was expecting me, they kind of expected the same thing. We were 15 miles away from a hospital in the Northeast associated with Yale University, called the Yale New Haven Medical Center. And she, went into labor. She water broke, sharp pain, all the same signs and symptoms. And they had a plan. My brother was going to go next door, and the neighbor was going to come over. And if it was at night, drive him to the hospital or whatever, they had someone help my dad. And about halfway to the hospital, she said, I can't feel my leg. And, sometimes you're in the backseat of a car, you're twisted, you're not sitting right. And my dad just thought it was, just the blood circulation. Your foot falls asleep, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So when they got to the hospital, they immediately took her vital signs, and her heart rate was flying, but her blood pressure had dropped below dangerous levels. And so what they knew at that time was that something was irregular. Something was going wrong inside of her heart and arteries and valves, et cetera. But they didn't know what. And they had never performed the surgeries that she endured, but they did a C-section to get me out. And then she spent 8 hours in the labor and delivery room for the surgeons trying to save her leg because there was a tear in her aorta, which is the largest the artery that leaves the heart with blood. And she was bleeding inside the internal wall and the external wall of that artery. That's what was causing the lower blood pressure and the heart trying to work faster.
Oh my gosh.
That effort of the heart also tore the flap of the valve at the base of the heart. So when I say it could have been the worst day of my life, she could have died and I could have died during that process. However, there were two surgeons who were visiting from Tulane University who had just perfected aortic valve procedures. They called them over from Yale and they went to work on my mom. She underwent 3 experimental surgeries they'd never really done before, other than on a dog named Archie, by the way, which was a pretty cool part of the story.
Wow.
And, 60 days from the day I was born was the first day that she saw me. So you think about getting out of the hospital these days.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Well, there was time when they didn't know. They didn't have imaging equipment. They didn't have the high, MRI type of things that they could go in and see things, right, differently. Or they didn't have arthroscopic where they go in with a camera and figure it out. So they were really flying blind. And she also needed 15 pints of blood for the heart-lung machine.
Gracious.
And most all of them came from the church that my parents attended in the small town in Connecticut. So to say that could have been the worst day of my life is true. But it ended up being an amazing day because she made a full recovery. The longest survivor ever in that situation I just described for you, Josh, was 72 hours.
I'm blown away even by the fact that there were 2 visiting surgeons. I mean, the experimental surgery, the team plots of blood, the 60 days in the hospital. Like, good gracious. Okay.
Yeah. So from there, what did that mean, right? Could just be a story, but it really impacted, as I look back, it just so much impacted how I was raised. And when I do speak, across the country to organizations and individuals and groups, and it varies. It's everywhere. I've grown to realize how fortunate I was in the gratitude soup, if you will, that I was raised in by my mom. Just every day, just was grateful for even, waking up and lived a full life. I mean, did everything that she wanted to do after she'd recovered. And, my dad, who was the silent patient in all this, he was kind of the guy with words. He liked crossword puzzles and he wrote plays and he wrote poems. And, it's kind of, I didn't see it as anything unique, weird, different, or even in line with anyone else. It just was my upbringing, right? And what led to the book was probably something we'll get to in a minute, which was something that occurred, later on in life for me.
Yeah, Lee, I'm thinking that could have been in your mother's opinion, the worst thing that ever happened, but she rolled that into being grateful. Man, maybe we all do that. I mean, for hard situations, really.
Yeah. And, I wish I could say it was all that. She was always, bubbly and grateful and everything was wonderful.
Yeah.
I remember, she passed when I was 22 years old. She passed away at age of 53. But those 22 years were such a gift for me and my brother, myself, and I.
Yeah.
There were times where, there's some articles that were written where she said, I have a pity party about myself about, getting tired walking up some stairs or, not maybe being able to get the laundry all folded. Just things that you think about that she was doing as a mom in that period of time. And, it was a lot of domestic stuff she did, but she went on to get a real estate license. She went on to, one of her favorite things to do was to help a new couple get into their first house. I mean, that was her dream, was that everyone should have that opportunity if they can, find a way to do it. So it was definitely a full life. But again, there were times when.
Well, yeah, she's not perfect. I mean, yeah, but the overarching theme, it sounds like, was, thankfulness, huh?
Absolutely. I mean, I turn this phrase a lot in my talks, instead of going, woe is me, why can't we say, wow is he? Right.
That's awesome.
Especially in her situation. Right. I mean, So I was kind of raised in that, right? Ups and downs, of course, but everything was just doused with having some sense of appreciation for life.
Hey, y'all. I just want to make an observation. When I see someone going through a legal situation, it seems like there are way too many unknowns. Well, the Allen firm provides legal guidance so that you can make a great decision, come to a resolution, and be at peace. For more information about the Allen firm, visit allenlawfirm.com.
Yeah, that's good. So you and your brother, and did you grow up in Connecticut?
Yeah, no, I lived in Connecticut until I was about 7.
Okay.
And then my mom had an aging mother, my grandmother in St. Petersburg, Florida. And
Okay.
she was a widow, strong as, just one of those strong as
Oh yeah.
moms, right? Raised 3 kids. And, but her health was failing a bit. So we moved to the Tampa Bay area to be close to her, about the age of 2nd grade. And
Okay.
that's when kind of got involved in a lot of the, Florida activities that you can, baseball year round and, music and stuff like that. So yeah, we grew up
Okay.
in the Clearwater area. Right.
Now, did you finish high school in Florida? I mean,
Yeah.
so let's kind of track along that path. So it sounds like your dad was into crosswords and words, and he was more quiet, and your mom, went through what we just talked about. And were you and your brother close? Like, kind of describe that, like growing up in high school, and where do
Yeah,
we go from
so
here?
he's 2.5 years older than I am, and the way I describe him, and if he's listening to this, hopefully he'll get a chuckle out of it. He has the mind of a mechanical mind, and I don't. So I describe our differences as that I break things and he fixes things.
Okay, it's
No,
perfect.
he was an Eagle Scout, earned that, went pretty far in the scouting world. I did, baseball, sports, and the arts. I play the drums, and my dad was a musician as well as a writer. So we're very different. We're probably closer now than we've been just as time goes on. But yeah, so so the high school we went to was so populated, but so small that we actually had what's called split sessions. So I was in 9th grade when he was in 11th. And so 9th and 10th went in the afternoon, 11th and 12th went in the morning. So by the time he graduated and I moved into 11th grade, we were never at high school at the same time, although,
Yeah.
Probably we could have been for a couple of years.
Oh, okay. And like the temperature around the house, it sounds like, I mean, just from me knowing you for a minute and like looking in and hearing your story, it sounds like it was just a pleasant, like almost like a pleasant experience. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I got my share of trouble, and so did
oh,
he.
for sure, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that I recall, I talk about this sometimes, is there was never the you have to aspire to this thing, and there was never a well, you're not good enough for. It was very open to try. So I remember playing baseball and doing the music thing at the same time. And when you get to be 13 and you start moving from the little league field to the larger field, and you're not growing as fast as everybody else is growing, and you're had been playing third base, and the coach wants you to play second base, you kind of take a little hit on the ego there at that age. And it was like, Dad, I don't know. He goes, well, you signed up for this year. We're playing this year out. Then you can sit down and have the conversation. So, it was leading by example for the most part. And Dad was kind of a quiet leader, and Mom was the encourager. Yeah.
And did you have a church background growing up?
Yeah, we did. We did. Yeah. Dad sang in the choir.
Okay.
We did the kind of the acrolite thing, I guess. And then when there was some music, I'd do some of the drum parts and some of the Christmas stuff, etc. But I'll be honest with you though, I was probably connected to the church at that age, but not so much connecting personally.
Oh, okay.
Makes sense. As you're younger, you kind of go to the Sunday school, you go to the youth group stuff. It's something you assemble to, but I would say that much more later in life, and as some things have occurred in my life since then, the faith aspect has become just so important.
Yeah.
And hindsight, right? But at the same time, I don't think he wants our abilities. He wants our availabilities, and then wants us to turn to him. So
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's a great way to explain it. I would say probably similar for me.
yeah.
So after high school, where'd you
Yeah,
go?
so this guy was going to be the next superstar drummer on the planet.
Oh,
I was
nice.
I went to college. I studied, auditioned, and was accepted and studied music in Tallahassee at Florida State University. I completed 1 year in the program, and then I realized, man, I love this music so much that I want it to be an avocation, not a vocation, because
Yeah.
there were so many amazing musicians that I was surrounded by in all aspects, vocal, instrumental, classical, commercial, jazz, etc. And it became really, how do you say this? Yeah, it became hard, and that's okay. It's kind of supposed to be, but I just didn't see making that progress. And I didn't want to turn on something that I loved so much in my life. So it was relatively smooth transition to move into the business school, get in the marketing program, and then I had the minor in music completed. So, yeah, but music has always been a passion, and I still love seeing live music, being in the room with live musicians.
Yeah, that's interesting you say there, Bruce, because we've had several guests who have pursued, you know, in college, the musical route and have said at some point it got to be so competitive or something, it's just like you almost lose the taste of it. I'm glad you're still going after it.
Oh, I love it. I love it, and I have a couple of really dear high school friends that have taken it to top shelf level, and
Yeah,
Grammy winning saxophone players, and I can
yeah.
name organizations or bands they've toured with. And there's something there, that there's an aptitude, a skill, and the work ethic. Don't get me wrong, but
Oh
there
yeah,
is
you
that
work it.
sort of thing that you just, a lot of that is a gift that
Yeah,
then
for
has to
sure.
be really developed, right? Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Okay, so you graduate Florida State University um with a marketing degree and a minor in music.
Right.
Are you dating, married by now? Are you where does that come into the picture, and then what do you do for work after that?
Yeah. So, probably got married too young, right out of college. Uh, so,
Hindsight's
that
20,
went,
hindsight's 2020 on that too. I know we're like, what are we doing?
yeah. So that went a little while, and then that didn't. Um, but I moved to Atlanta and started in the healthcare technology business. It was kind of, quite honestly, there was a real draw to do something that could give back to, the medical miracles that our family experienced, and we're grateful to have. And healthcare technology, aging population, the insurance world, computers and technology, that was all sort of the blending of things at the time, kind of the hot industries when I was coming out of college. So I was able to find a firm in Atlanta that blended all those, and that's where my healthcare career started. And did that for a long time. I mean, that was my entire career, and that helping hospitals with their technology, from billing through patient experience to following up in insurance claims, and just all the kind of the administrative aspect. I remarried in 1994. So my wife and I it'll be 30 years, New Year's Eve.
Oh,
Yeah,
congratulations. Yeah, that's amazing.
really excited about that. Very excited. I've outkicked my coverage for sure on this
Yeah.
one. And
That's awesome.
so, but then we can kind of move into, that was different jobs, right? It was implementation. So there was a technical side of getting systems implemented and table building and all that kind of training and all. And I really liked that. Then there was the opportunity to, now that I knew these solutions, I knew these products, to kind of move into the front end of the process and do some presentations and demonstration work pre-purchase by the customers. And that kind of got me, I guess, out from behind the drums, where you're kind of quiet, if you will, out from under the scenes and behind the scenes, to actually having to start speaking about and learning how to speak about features and benefits and advantages, and differentiation, and what problems your solution solves. So that sort of started exercises of learning, kind of have a conversation with someone about what problem am I solving, not what
Yeah,
feature.
I know. I think about it now from while we're even talking and hearing you talk about it past. It's just, it's so sweet to think you were getting trained back then to get out in front of people too and be able to communicate the
Yeah,
way
some of those first ones, man, they were rough and bumbles.
No,
But
that's okay.
yeah, you can't do a great presentation until you do a good one. You can't do a good one until you do an okay one, and you can't do an okay one until you do your first one. So
No, that's perfect.
that's hindsight. But then the sales opportunities opened up, and I wasn't really game for that. It was man, you sure, and had some really good sales leader mentors that really kind of helped me, you know, get in where you fit in, do things your way, and don't pay attention to things that maybe aren't your way of doing. You got to learn, but at the same time, you got to come with Josh. You got to come
Yeah.
with Bruce, and you got to be that authentic person. And you're going to win some, you're going to lose some if you go that way. But that really helped, and it really propelled me into some great opportunities. And it's a time when healthcare systems were really expanding in technology, and I thought that's where everything was going to wrap up. I thought, okay, we got 20, 25 years in here. And then the world changed. Then everything
Okay.
back.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you're 25 years in.
Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah. So,
This is again another reason why we're talking is
well,
which is
yeah, we go through life, right? And some of us are fortunate enough just to not have anything kind of occur, right? But that's not many of us. I think the majority of folks will say they had a moment. They had a moment in life where there was a crossroads, there was a choice to make, or maybe it wasn't a choice. Maybe there was something that occurred in your life. And I reflected right back on to mom and dad, the moment that I had what I call a BAM moment, BAM.
yeah. Explain
And
that. Yeah.
a BAM moment to me, it's just kind of crazy word. I think I grew up watching Batman and Robin. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
come on the Saturday morning cartoons. To me, a BAM moment became when the day before everything was going a certain way. And then all of a sudden, bam, something occurs in life, a car accident, a diagnosis, a relationship exploding, death of a loved one. For me, it was a layoff. So 25 years in the industry, a couple of different companies, but bam, you get that meeting in the corner office with your sales VP and someone you've never met before from HR. And the sales vice president says your job's been eliminated, and I'm going to turn you over to what it becomes is Charlie Brown's teacher, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Everything's going on in your head, and you're not hearing a word that this person's saying. And I drove home that day. It was the longest drive home ever because your badge, your computer, all the details. Just boom, it's over. And that was my BAM moment, and I didn't know what I was going to do. I was angry.
That's what I
Right?
say. Did you have any warning?
No,
Really?
no. I
Oh
mean,
man.
you
Yeah.
you kind of run in the. I guess it's kind of like the frog in the bottle in the boiling pot of water, right? The temperature gets turned up slowly.
Yeah.
Things you don't really pay attention to or you don't really see, and the next thing you know, the frog's boiled. Versus throwing them into a hot pot, it's going to jump right out. But
Yeah.
just but at the end of the day, right? It happened for me, not to me. And
Yeah.
in that moment, man, anger, doubt, denial. What are you kidding me? This is a bad dream. However, everything changed the next day. So that job ended. What am I going to do? The next day is when the writing of the book started,
Oh
which
my gosh.
wasn't intended to be a book. It was just I don't know what it was.
Well, what happened though? I mean, it's not like did you just decide, hey, I'm gonna get up and start writing, or what happened?
I got up. I was laying in bed actually, and the book, the word that's on the cover of the book is the word strong. So you kind of see it right here, STRONG. And I just wrote it vertically, and it became stand tall, remain optimistic, now go for it. It was just a way for some crazy at that moment reason that word popped in my head, and I wrote it down. And I said, okay, we got to do something today. I mean, life's like the sky's not falling. We're going to be okay, but I got to do something to flip on the be strong button. And I'd never written like that before, ever. And so I tried to plant that seed in my head and say, do something that makes you strong. Maybe call someone else who was laid off that day, because there were 500 people that day in that company, and just ask them how they're doing, or find a way to just not fake it. That wasn't the word, but find something that like maybe my mom had to do, or maybe my dad had to do when he was in the waiting room. And it wasn't really, quite honestly, at that point, of faith strength. It was just, be strong, man. You got to do that. You've gone through things before, just kind of talking to yourself like a pep talk. Then the next morning I woke up and today will be awesome. So I wrote down awesome, and that became a wonderful experience shall overwhelm my expectations. Boom. There's a second word written the same way with the message of optimism in it.
The word was just popping in your mind when you woke up, sort of?
Popped in my mind. First thing I did is wrote it vertically. And then I decided, let's just look at the letters and let some, kind of sounds woohoo, but let something come to you.
I know what you're saying.
What does that word mean, Bruce? What is an awesome day like? Well, I talk about it in my TED talk that we live in the center of the city of Atlanta pretty much. And to get to my grocery store, there's maybe 5 lights, and 2 of them or 3 of them are left-hand turn arrows, right? And It could take you 30 minutes to get to the grocery store just by the sequence of lights, right? Well, I remember that day every light was green, including
Oh, that's a big deal, though. You're just like cruising on.
You look at I was for some crazy reason, Josh, I was looking for it. I was looking for, I don't know, maybe the golden retriever saying, throw the ball, I'll go chase it again. I don't really know. And at the end of the day, it's been so long ago, it doesn't really matter, because it changed everything in my life in that first few days. Then it kept going, writing every single morning around 6 a.m. when I'd wake up every day. So what's the word today? Never went to a thesaurus, never went to a dictionary, haven't written a D yet. Let's go, and just sitting there. And, God divinely downloaded these messages to me.
I know, man. That's what I hear from you. Just when you woke up, he just boom, word. And you did that 400 times, 400 days.
Yeah, it was at that point when we said, we got to do something.
Oh my
gosh.
That's so awesome.
My kids were getting tired of me coming down the stairs saying, hey, the word today is,
I bet.
whatever. So what happened, and this really made it dive deep into a foundation that it was more than just this wordy dude, right? Just writing these crazy things. I had a group text, and I started sending these out. A dear friend of mine is a pediatric heart surgeon in Florida. So think about what he does every day. He operates on the hearts the size of a walnut every day. Or, that's his, one of about 100 in the country that do all that or in the world that do all that he does. Very small.
Oh, yeah.
So he was on that text list, and he called me one night, and he said, thanks for sending me the word today. I said, tell me. I don't even know if I remember. Or maybe it was earlier in the week, or, he caught me on a weekend. And I said, well, tell me the story. He goes, we were in scrubbing in pre-op. There were 6 or 7 surgeons and assistants and anesthesiologists. We were all getting ready for this surgery on a 7-day-old baby. And there were 10 things that possibly could be in there when we open up the chest of this little baby, meaning 10 possible issues. I mean, they had all everything, they kind of knew. But the challenge, he said, was with each of these 10, whichever one it is, there could be 10 possible solutions that we would then work through solving this problem. So we were going through that, all of us scrubbing. Could be this, could be that, go in here, go in there. I don't even have the technical terms. And my phone went off, and my assistant reached into my jacket and pulled my coat out of my coat pocket and said, what is it? It's a text from Bruce. He said, read it. And that,
wow.
That word was the word calm. Catch a little moment.
Wow, that gives me chills even thinking about that, and the timing of getting
step back, and the timing, right? Who knew? It was me. I just wrote the word. I mean, it's
the Lord, yeah.
And he said that allowed us to kind of, we weren't panicking. That was not where he was going, but it was that moment of, let's go, like let's roll, that he needed. And when my friend messaged that to me, called me and talked to me about it, I said, okay, we have to find a way to do more with this 3-ring binder, because God's got a bigger plan for it than
Yeah.
me.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, then you write and you have like a whole series of. Was that the moment, or was there a moment kind of shortly after that that you're like, okay, I got to turn this into a book and start talking about it, or did that naturally just progress? Like, walk me into like from writing for you, and you saw it starting to benefit others, and then like, what's the next step? What'd you do? Like,
Yeah,
how'd you
yeah.
take it?
So it's interesting. There was probably a lot of bedlam and chaos and process in life that continued because I did get back into the corporate world and did pick up and keep doing. There's a lot of companies in the industry, and that worked out great for me. But I kept on writing, and I found we'd go to maybe a Monday morning stand up with the sales team around, or some of the product folks around, and I'd say, hey, I got this word today, and I would integrate it into kind of what I was doing without really this big plan of I'd find a publisher and go out there and heads down and just so it became a fabric of what I was doing. So at that same time, I started kind of researching and just looking at how do you do this, right? If you want to take this into a book, and I landed on a TED talk by a person who her title for something about the title of her book was our TED talk was "Words Are Currency." And I went, okay, yeah, that's a kind of a good perspective, and I don't say tagline, but a good way to look. So I reached out. Her name is Tammy Kling. Tammy lives in the North Dallas area, and I sent her, I don't know, 50 words or maybe the first two thought chapters that I do, and said, hey, I'd just like your feedback and input on, you're an author, and she does books. She was a sort of a hybrid publisher, literary agent type, and we connected, and she said, I'd like to do your book with you. So that kind of happened just by me digging around a little bit and kept writing. And at some point, I went to a local coffee shop with 400 pages or whatever it was, because I had a word on each page. And it became like shuffling. Okay, here's a book on mindset. Here's a book on leadership, or a chapter. Here's a chapter on, when the batteries are low. Here's a chapter about being strong. Here's a chapter about, this one's for my kids because it's about we're all unique and we should celebrate that. So that's the chapter called Unique, and at the end of the day, it became, a dozen and a half piles of paper.
Yeah, you had your chapters and you had it all like
I
it's
pretty
all
much
laid
had
out
it,
for
I
you.
thought, lined up. And
Wow.
because I was trying to think of, where and when would we need this? And I didn't just want it to be alphabetical. So I thought I'd group it a little bit. So that's just sort of the process of how that came about.
Unstuck Coaches hates it when movement and progress in a person's life or business is stuck, or frozen, or slowed, or just stopped altogether. Well, we have found a solution. Unstuckcoaches.com. They offer a variety of coaching services to get you or your business moving again. Check out unstuckcoaches.com.
And you were still in, corporate America, and
Yeah.
then you connected with her, and then y'all together started putting it together.
Yeah, that's right. She's done probably 1,000 books. Really good process and project on how they do their stuff, and it worked out well. And then
Were you still working during the time you were putting it all together? Okay,
yeah, still
long hours and
carrying a bag, and there'd be mornings, and then you'd have these 1 hour conference calls where they'd kind of guide you into, okay, now let's think about this, let's think about that, and look at the cover and the jacket and the artwork, and just I needed someone to help me with that. There's so many services now, you can do those on your own, or I think if you're a celebrity, you can probably get the attention of the traditional publishers, but there's a lot of ways to do a book now, and that's really cool, because I think if anyone's out there that has a story they've been mulling over and believes it can impact others, that's really, I think my book should be written. It's what kind of power and impact can they have on other people's lives by sharing the story. So yeah, then the other mission came, because I realized that this was a gift to me at a time I needed it, and I knew where it came from. I mean, the last people that thought I would write a book were my English teachers.
Yeah. So man, so good.
Right? I mean, I was
That's why I
not
think
that
the Lord
guy.
has. That's why I think God has such a good sense of humor. Really, I mean,
Yeah, he just gave me this hindsight is it's this assignment, right? I'm going to pull you out of this corporate world. I'm going to put your attention on something and I'm going to start feeding this stuff to you. So take it and use it. Okay. Now write a book. What? You kidding me, right? I told you about my English teacher. Okay, now publish it. Okay, that's a whole nother step, but we'll go. Again, this is kind of hindsight. This wasn't, hey,
oh yeah, man. When you're
right.
in the weeds, it's not that clear at all.
That's right. That's absolutely right. So then we got the book published and got that working. And then he said, okay, you're still in healthcare, you're still in technology, you're still calling on hospitals. Now go give one to every hospital you call on. Because every hospital has a family library or a resource center, especially children's hospitals where or they have a chapel where there's
Yeah.
a library of resources. And so the blessing there was, I mean, we've probably, I don't know, I think I've even lost track. I mean, I think there's 5,000, maybe 5,500 hospitals in the country. I'm not in every one of them, but when I was calling, finish with my meeting with the executive I was meeting with, and I'd say, could you introduce me to the person that runs the library before I leave? I'd like to go down and say hello. And I've done this book, and part of the mission is to share it with folks that are going through some really difficult times. And that started the sell a book, give a book, or get booked for a talk, find a place that you can do a workshop, at a homeless shelter or at a, Boys and Girls Club.
Oh
They
wow.
just kept pouring into me to do that while I'm still in corporate America. Then if you want, we'll stop here. We can talk a little bit about the TED or whatever. But that's kind
Yeah.
of
So
how
where
it
did the
all
TED come in? Yeah. So is that kind of chronologically how the TED came
Yeah,
into it?
yeah, because I was doing some speaking. I was doing some healthcare association speaking at their national, regional and state conferences. The power of your words, power of your mindset. Folks that are in healthcare have a real unique heart about caring for others, and it's a real difficult job because there's so much pressure. There's pressure in everything, but I mean, it's lives and it's families and its impact. So I just kind of told my story of mom, talked about the BAM moment, kind of talking about kind of what we're talking about here, and that started really energizing me. And then the Tammy Kling called me and said, we just bought the rights to a TEDx program in the North Dallas area, and we're going to take auditions. And she goes, I thought I'd ask you if you'd be interested in trying out, if you will. And
Oh wow.
what's that? Because like you said, I came from behind the drums, right?
Oh my gosh, it's
Doing
so
some
good, man.
training programs in healthcare, right? To doing a little bit of speaking, and I'm thinking, okay, God, these are real
No,
speakers. You don't just get up
no
and spit.
kidding, man. That makes me nervous even kind of hearing that. Like I can't imagine how you were feeling. So did you have to go fly there and audition
Yeah,
and then
so
come back and wait and
yeah, it worked a couple ways. Fortunately, they had a process that you would record 3 minutes on your phone. Just record. The idea I'd like to share today is, and you just recorded 3 minutes, and it could be over then, or they took you to a next step. I think there were like 300 audition tapes that they listened to, so that's why they wanted them to be pretty short. Then the second step was, yeah, you flew out and did an audition in a conference room. And it was a small one, and there were people wrapped around it.
oh,
No,
this is
no,
torture to hear, man.
well, once you say I'm in, you just
Yeah.
go. And there were, I don't know, 14 judges wrapped around a table. No slides because TED's really you don't do many. I mean, I had a few in mind, but you got 5 minutes to say, why should I? You didn't say why should you pick me. You did a mini version of your TED. And
Yeah.
you're going in, you do your 5 minutes, and someone comes out, and you kind of look at them, how you doing? It's kind of like going in for that tryout for the
Oh yeah.
right. And I got to meet some amazing people during that process. And what we kind of realized is we were all in the same boat. There's no getting out. You're here. We got to go. And we encourage everyone encouraged each other. And they picked 17 out of the 300, I guess, that initially decided to audition in. And yeah, I was fortunate to be to be one of them. And the talk was really on mindset and the power of intention, the power of positivity. And so my theme kind of lined up. And man, I'm not a memorization guy. I can tell you that. So I had to figure out how to learn. That's a whole nother, we could do a whole nother podcast on learning 14 minutes of where you're going with this thing. And it's not a pitch, right? It's the idea I'd like to share with you today is, and then you got to just kind of figure out what you want to do. And it really helped me in telling a story and tying it to, I kind of get back to the fact that I said, I didn't realize what my life was like being raised, right? I didn't understand what it meant to be in that soup of gratitude because I hadn't had that. I had that bam moment, but it was like the first time. So what I was really trying to do is say, how can I take the message of my situation and try to make it universally meaningful to someone who might be going through the diagnosis or might be going through the relationship that ended or something, because I do believe we all have a connection because of something that has been broken in our life. And that's really where that's where I think God was whittling me in that TED to, I often say, I feel like a redwood tree that's being whittled into a toothpick because he's honing me into months. Yeah. So that's how that happened. And, I've just been blessed. I mean, I don't think I know 1,500 people, let alone 340,000 who've watched this TED Talk.
Oh, there's more than that. I mean, I think when I watch it, I mean, I feel like it may have been 340, but I thought it was like closer to 390. Anyway, whatever, 350,000 people. Oh
and
my
I've only
gosh.
watched it 349,000 of the time.
Yeah, right.
It's a clip. No, I'm kidding, but it's just really helped. It's just really, it was a great platform, and it is not a faith-based platform intentionally. In fact, you have to stay away from anything related to pitching or belief systems or faith or things like that. So I mean, I looked up a couple times to the heavens and did a couple of thanks.
Oh, for sure.
You have to kind of be careful, but that's okay because I'm hopeful that when folks listen to the message, they get the message and they see kind of something of value and something that's encouraging for them.
Oh, for sure. And no, and I wrote down kind of after I watched it, just about let's talk for a minute about like how do you, because I mean the title was changing the negative self-talk by renewing your mindset.
Mm-hmm.
I mean they don't know faith-based stuff, but like that's Romans 12, like renewing your mind. So how have you seen that as that's became your message that you've been traveling around and like speaking? How have you seen people's lives be transformed by, getting rid of that negative self-talk, having more of a positive outlook?
Yeah.
Sounds like you grew up with a little bit, but how have you seen it change lives?
Yeah. And it's not a light switch, Josh. It's not like, oh, okay, now I'm fine. But
yeah, thanks for saying that.
You plant some seeds and, I always say this on podcasts. I'm a mouse in my own laboratory, man. So I don't, I have to write, I have to do this because we have setbacks, right? So, and you have to kind of work through them and figure that out. And it's a constant battle and struggle. And, our faith helps us with that. I guess one way I do this is I encourage folks, I challenge folks to look at maybe 4 or 5 words. And I ask them to give me their first response when they hear this word. And so, for example, and I'll split the room up into 2 sections. And the first word I say is the word bound, and I'll do this, right? And what does that mean to be bound? And everybody will say constrained, restricted, can't do anything. Go through a couple more words like buckle, you buckle over, or hold up, being stopped from something, stop there. But there's more that we do in the workshop. And I turn to the other side and I say, man, what if you say I'm bound and determined? And they go, oh. Or what if I buckle down and do whatever it takes? Or what if I thank you for holding me up instead of holding me up? Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's connected with me so much. It changes it completely.
It
100%.
it gives a different lens, and it doesn't mean like tomorrow I'm going to say I'm bound to determine when I feel stuck in this job or this relationship, but it it can turn a light on something that just has you look at things, a little bit differently. Like, only if I were taller, only if I were faster, only if I had a better voice, only if I had a better, brain for analytics. How about only if I get after it? Only if I check out that book from the library. Only if I work on my pitch. It's just if only or only if. It's just ways to speak to ourselves. And it's behavioral. It's nobody's fault. We get pounded. And my job, I think, for the rest of my life is to help folks step back from that and say, let's pay attention to our words.
Oh man, there's life and death in the power of the tongue. I mean, that scripture.
And
So,
and if you look
yeah,
at the word, if you look at words, words, and you put the S at the beginning, it becomes what?
sword, isn't it?
Words for sword. They can
Yeah.
slay or they can protect. So, and I don't want to overdo it because there's action, that I love that word, because in the word action is what you have to do. The fourth letter is I. The first three letters are act, and the last two are on. So it's not just words. We got to, put it to. I saw a great meme last week. It says God has everything under control, but don't expect to lean on a shovel and have a hole appear.
Yeah. Yep. That's good.
It takes action. But to me, a lot of the fuse, a lot of the stepping point is, what are we saying to ourselves? That script that goes on in our mind.
Mm.
If I had to print that script out and sign it and read it to the world, sometimes it wouldn't be a fun conversation because of what goes on often.
Yeah, we talk to ourselves a whole lot, and most of it's not going to be positive, really.
Yeah,
It's pretty damaging.
but we can learn it. We can learn it. I'll do a whole nother thing on resolutions. I hate that word. I don't hate. That's a word I dislike very much.
Yeah.
My mom used to say, don't hate anything. Resolution.
Like New Year's resolutions, and I have a resolution to do. Okay, yeah.
Split that word apart. Take the R and the E and just drop in an A and an L, and it becomes real solution. If we go from, because otherwise, the treadmill becomes a clothesline about February 16th of every year.
Yeah.
We're
out after that. Yeah. Right? At February 16th, we're out.
So what can we do? It's 21 days to form a habit, right? And a habit might say, I'm going to walk a mile a day, 3 days a week. 21 days, you have a habit of walking a mile 3 days a week. But the research shows that if you do something for 67 days, and that for some reason it's 67, on the 68th day, it becomes harder not to do it than to do it. Okay. I've applied that in a bunch of different things in life, and I found it to be true. Get to 67, I'm doing it today because it isn't a resolution. It isn't a habit. It's now lifestyle.
Yeah, it's life for you. Oh, wow, that's amazing.
So instead of saying, I walk 3 times a week, at 67 days, you say, I'm a walker, or I'm living a healthy lifestyle by walking every morning. See, it
becomes your identity almost. Yeah,
it does. And, those things are going to change. They're going to have seasons, whether you're going to, but at the end of the day, it's that circle of going from, yes, set the goal, but commit to a real solution. Do it for 21 days. It becomes what you do. And then at the end of that next period, 67 days, it becomes who you are.
Yeah, that's so cool. Okay, do you have as we're kind of starting to navigate toward the landing strip, do you have a favorite word that I should leave it at that? Do you have a favorite?
I do.
That's been most impactful?
Yes.
What is it?
And it's because of all that we talked about, all the things that were kind of revealed to me and I had to work on and develop, and the writing, and we talked about sports and music and business, and all those things. My favorite word is the word gifts, GIFTS, because number one, I believe we all have them, and it's up to us to dive in, develop them. And gifts are only good when you give them away. And my acrostic for gifts is God installed features to share.
Oh, that's so good, man.
You look at a 12-year-old and, I remember that time, right? It's like, what am I going to be when I grow up? Or I'm good at this, or I'm not good at that. You start looking around at things. And man, that is the most perfect time to say, you have gifts. You are a gift. You have gifts. Now let's go explore them, pay attention to them, develop them, and give them away.
Yeah, that's sweet. Especially the give it away part. I mean, I like that. That connects to big time.
Ties back to me sending my friend the word calm. I mean, not that if I didn't do that, right, that's not what I'm saying, but it was a gift and he kind of needed it that day. And yeah.
So how can people connect with you? I want to ask another question after this, but how can they connect with you if they're like, hey man, I want Bruce to come speak to our business, speak to the C-suite, speak to whatever.
Yeah.
Do a workshop, bring books, get books, all that stuff. What's the best place?
Well, for the business world, probably on LinkedIn. Just look up Bruce Pulver, connect with me. Got a lot of my stuff out there. I've continued writing. Today was day 946.
Wow.
Yeah. So today I wrote Arrow, and what that means. But I've been writing when COVID kind of shut things down for us. I said, how can I stay in touch with my healthcare customers? Because I was still in that space. And I started writing, and at 500 days, weekdays, I said, I'm done. I got to stop. And then I kind of announced that, and a lot of folks said, would you please don't? So we're approaching 1,000 days, which something will happen around 1,000. I don't know. But LinkedIn, just Bruce Pulver on LinkedIn is a really good way to just message me or follow, connect, and I'm very active out there. If you're more on the kind of the social media side, Instagram and Facebook are Above the Chatter Bruce Pulver. You'll find me. I post out there all the time. My webpage is the name of the book, Above the Chatter, ourwordsmatter.com. A good way to find the book, but also communicate with me there. I try to be available in a lot of different places. Saturday mornings on Facebook, I do what's called a walk and talk. So I'll break down a word for 10 minutes on a Saturday morning at 8:00. I just go do a walk, and that's interactive. Sometimes folks will press the button to come on, and we break the conversation down a little bit. And shoot, I mean, if you want to call me direct or text me, 404-273-8334. Why not just reach out? I'm here. I'm available. We are doing some planning now into 2024. So you got a kickoff meeting, or you've got a organization, association that's got a first quarter meeting. We still have some slots that I come out and do a keynote, but we also do a word shop, WORD. Tease up a little bit is that folks will leave with a word of their own and a challenge to activate it. So we really are trying to not just talk about the story, but really plant some seeds in folks to take it back to work, take it to their families, take it to their communities.
Well, I'm taking gifts to my family today. This is awesome. Okay, awesome. Let's land here. If you had to say to your life to date, how would you encourage people? Or what would you say kind of is your life message? Like those combined, how would you use your life message, and to encourage people?
So I'll wrap it up with one of my other favorite acrostics, if you don't mind.
Okay. Yeah, perfect.
I think, first of all, it's really important. It's really important to be okay being a beginner at something all the time. I just think that's what's opened doors for me, has been that cutting that doubt out, right? And so this is one of my favorite acrostics because we used it with our kids as they were growing up. It's 3 words. It's the word, yes, I can. So think about the first time your 3-year-old looks up at the monkey bars and looks at the, grabbing the needs to go. Yes, I can. Now you help them, right? You kind of do what it takes to help them be successful. Or going down the slide for the first time, or the bicycle with the training wheels, right? And let that grow into everything that you do in life. And just start by saying, yes, I can. Yes, I can means you expect success in challenging activities now. you start there, it doesn't mean it's going to happen, but it certainly is going to put you on the journey. Capital J, capital O, URNE, capital Y, right? The joy in the journey. It's going to put you on the journey that sets you up to see things that are going to help you be successful.
Gosh, that's cool, so good. I can see it now, like it's connecting to me more and more. So I see why people are, I mean, it changes everything if you think about words this way. Well, get the book, people. Above the Chatter. Our words matter. And you heard about how to connect, and we'll link it in the notes. And man, thank you so much for making time today. I've loved it.
Great to be with you, Josh. Thanks for I guess letting me open up the tour bus in this little.
Oh, it's awesome, man. You changed the rest of my week. This is cool. So we'll look forward to keeping in touch, and if you're around us here in Texas at some point, you got to let me know, because I want to come hear you speak. So I appreciate taking the time today.
Bring me out. I'm ready to go. Talk to you
Let's
soon.
do it.
All right, Josh.
Thanks, Bruce. Bye-bye.
Have a great day.
Thank you for joining us on this latest edition to the Storyfield podcast. We hope that you have been challenged, inspired, and ready to take that next step, whatever that is. If you know someone with an amazing story that needs to be heard, send us an email at info@thestoryfield.com. Have a fantastic day, and we can't wait for you to join us on the next episode of The Storyfield.